Magic Kingdom with kids can either be the most magical place or the most miserable place on earth. In today's video, I'm going to take a deep dive into Magic Kingdom and talk about some of the tips and tricks I have for surviving the park with little kids. Hey guys, I'm Jessica, and this is my channel where I share Disney tips and tricks and some vlogs too. A little while ago, I shared just some general tips and tricks for taking toddlers to Disney World. So if you're just looking for some overall tips for really little kids at all of the parks, that's a good video to check out. I will link it below. And I've taken kids of all ages up through 10 now to Disney World. So I feel like I have some good tips and tricks for all ages. Today we're focusing specifically on the Magic Kingdom. This is the biggest park, the most overwhelming park as far as sights and sounds and crowds and all of those things go. So I'm going to split this into two different parts. So today in the first part, I'm going to be talking about how to set yourself up for success for a day at the Magic Kingdom with kids. And then next time, I'll be specifically talking about all of the rides and the attractions. I'm gonna kind of go through land by land and talk about some different things that you can experience in each of the lands, and also some tips along the way. Oh, my baby's supposed to be napping, but he's playing on his little play mat instead. So if you hear little cute baby noises, I'm sorry, that's why. So I feel like each park kind of has its own personality. And Magic Kingdom is definitely the one that is the most iconic, and it's the most geared toward kids. If you've never been to Disney World before and you think about Disney World, it's probably the park that you're picturing in your head. It's magical. It can also be the most, like I said earlier, the most crowded, overstimulating, and stressful park too. So you just have to know that going in. And I went over this a lot in my other video, a couple other videos, but take breaks when you need them. That's going to be huge with Magic Kingdom. It's the park with the most rides, the most things to do. So it's really important to take breaks when you need them, whether that means going back to your hotel or resort or just stopping in some air conditioning, getting a bite to eat, something like that. Don't push yourself too hard or everyone's gonna be miserable. So now that we've got kind of the overview of Magic Kingdom taken care of, I'm going to take you through a typical day starting early in the morning before you even leave your resort and tell you kind of some things that you can expect and how you can make the most of your day at Magic Kingdom without being super miserable. So here we go. Okay, so currently when I am making this video in April of 2024, there is one ride that you have to book a virtual queue for at the Magic Kingdom, and that is Tron. Now in a few months, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, for some reason I always get tongue-tied when I say that, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which is the old Splash Mountain ride, is going to be opening, and I bet this will change then in some way. But right now you have to book a virtual queue for Tron if you want to ride it. And a lot of kids are going to be too short to ride it anyway. It does have a height requirement, but just know if you or anyone in your party wants to ride it, the first thing you're probably going to want to do in the morning before you go to Magic Kingdom for the day is to try to book that virtual queue. I believe it opens at 7 o'clock, the booking. If that is incorrect, I will put it down at the bottom of the screen. But at 7 o'clock, you have to go right into your Disney World app and book that like right when the window opens at 7. It does book up really quickly. And basically they'll give you a number, like you're in group 73 or whatever. And then as the day goes on, when it's time for your group to ride, you'll get a notification on your phone that it's your turn to go ride, and then you'll wait through the line and ride the ride then. So you have to do that. There's also another chance at 1 o'clock p.m. Again, if I'm incorrect about the time, I will put it on the screen. But 1 o'clock p.m. you can try again, and I have heard it's easier to get it at that 1 o'clock time. So you have a couple of chances. You can also buy a lightning lane, spend a little extra money and do it that way. So just know if that's important to you, when you wake up 7 o'clock a.m., you're gonna wanna book that. Also, that's the time you're gonna book if you have bought Genie Plus. That's the time you're gonna wanna book all of your, or your first, what am I trying to say? I believe you can book your first lightning lanes for Genie Plus at 7 a.m. as well. So not very relaxing. I wish they would change that, and they might in the future, but that's the first thing you're gonna wanna do. Not really, that doesn't really have anything to do specifically with kids, but just know that's probably gonna be a part of your day if those things are important to you. And I do suggest, of all the parks, I think Genie Plus is very helpful in Magic Kingdom because there are so many rides. We prioritize spending money on Genie Plus over other things because we really do think it changes the experience of the whole day. So I do think it's a good idea if you don't want to be waiting in long lines all day. And if you have little kids, obviously it's going to be probably an easier day for everyone if they don't have to wait in long lines, but it's also very expensive. So Genie Plus, that's a whole nother video. I'm going off on a tangent. We'll talk about that more another day, I'm sure. But anyway, that's what you need to do first thing in the morning. Okay, so some things you're going to want to do before you even get to the park, after you've booked all of those things, to set yourself up for success are, first of all, hopefully you're a morning person, or hopefully your kids are getting you up early anyway, because you're going to want to get to Magic Kingdom early. Like I said, there's so many rides. It's really crowded a lot of the time. But if you can get there early, then it's much less busy, like those first 2 hours of the day. And if you are staying on property, you can get in a half hour earlier than the rest of the public. Oh, baby's getting fussy. We'll see how this goes. But you can get there a half hour earlier, and I highly recommend to be there on time for that. You're going to be able to ride lots the first couple hours, and then it's going to get super slammed and busy. So I'm not a morning person, but I try to be a morning person at Disney, especially on those Magic Kingdom days. Let me go help my baby. Another thing that's going to be really helpful if you have kids is to bring snacks. You are allowed to bring outside food and beverages into the park. So if you just want to throw some snacks in there, or even like a small meal, like a sandwich or something like that you know your kids are going to eat, that's always a good idea. It's going to mean less money spent in the parks, and if your kids are like mine, they are extremely picky and they're not going to eat what you buy them anyway. So it's always good to have a backup. Another way to save money is to know that around every corner, it seems like, there are like bubble wands that you can buy. Tons of kids have them. Your kids will see what the other kids have and they will want one. They're very expensive. We have bought one or two in the past just because they are fun. It's fun for your kid to be sitting in their stroller and they can just be blowing bubbles all around. It kind of adds to the magic. But there are much cheaper ones that you can buy on Amazon before your trip if you don't want to buy one in Disney. Like I said, we did want to buy one just because it was fun. We could have saved a lot of money if we had bought some ahead of time, and I could have whipped them out and they could have just played with them. Might not have had the cute Disney character on it though, but you know, same idea. Same thing with glow sticks. At night when you're waiting for the fireworks, there's going to be all kinds of little carts with fun light up toys. And if you can pull out some glow sticks and give those to your kids to play with, they're gonna probably enjoy that, and you won't have to spend money on the light up toys. And I'm not saying you have to, buy things for your kids, obviously not, but it's just fun to have something extra, to have that planned ahead of time, and they can play with that while they're waiting for fireworks, or while you're going about your day in the parks, they can play with their bubble blowers. And if you have that all planned ahead of time, you can save some money. Another thing that's big is be prepared for the weather. Make sure if you're going in the summer, it's going to feel like the surface of the sun. So make sure you're dressed accordingly. In the winter, it can actually get a lot colder than you would think for Florida. So make sure you're wearing a lot of layers, and be prepared for rain, especially in the summer. It rains a lot. Usually in the summer, it rains just for like an hour or two in the afternoon or evening, and then it clears off. I have my list down here if I'm looking down, but yeah, nothing can make a kid more miserable than if they're soaking wet or too hot or too cold. That can like ruin the whole day. If you have kids, you know. And also, you probably want to have a rough plan for the day. I've talked in the past about how you want to kind of figure out from all of the members of your party what is going to be like their highest priorities. Try to knock those out first, and then everything else after that is just bonus. So have a rough plan, but also be flexible. And if you have that mindset going in, I think it's gonna set you up for success for the day. And another thing is you have the option to add a memory maker on when you book tickets to the park. And what memory maker is basically it gives you access to pictures. So you'll see photographers all throughout the park. They'll take your picture and they'll scan your Magic Band or your card or whatever you have, and they'll just show up a little while later. It'll show up in the Disney World app. So that's awesome. I think it's worth the price. I would definitely, especially if you have little kids, I would definitely recommend that. And I would say though, make sure you're taking advantage of it. Our first trip, we were kind of just overwhelmed with everything, and we kind of forgot to stop for a lot of those photo ops. We got some good pictures, but I think our next trip we really were like, oh, let's be intentional about stopping whenever we see a photographer, and we got a lot more pictures from then on out. But highly recommend that, especially if you have kids and you wanna keep those memories. Another thing with Magic Kingdom specifically that can be a little tricky is transportation getting into the park. All the other parks, you just basically take whatever transportation and it takes you straight to like the entrance gate of the park basically. But with Magic Kingdom, unless you take a bus, you are going to, like if you drive, you're going to have to park at the Ticket and Transportation Center, which is like away from Magic Kingdom. And you're going to either have to take the monorail or there's a ferry that you can take to get to the entrance of the park. The bus will take you right to the entrance. We usually rent a car, but sometimes we'll just take the bus on our Magic Kingdom days because it does save you a step with the transportation. So getting to the park, you need to figure out what's going to be the best way for you. I will say we think the monorail is a little more magical, but I think sometimes the ferry can be a little bit faster. So it depends, I guess, if you're super early and you have time to take the monorail, or if you're running a little bit later, you might want to take the ferry. But just know it's a lot. It's a pain to get there a lot of times. So, and those buses in the morning, well, not just the buses, everything is going to be really busy at park entry. That's why we try to get there like a half hour before we're able to get into the park. So for early entry. So we're usually, those Magic Kingdom days, like I said, are usually super early mornings. Magic Kingdom days just take a little bit more effort and a little bit more planning. So I already talked a little bit about like early entry. So Magic Kingdom is a little bit special because the front part of the park, like Main Street, is open. I'm not sure exactly how much earlier before like you're technically allowed into the like lands of the park, but it's open early. You can go into the shops, you can get a coffee. There's a castle show that they'll sort of welcome you and open the park, and it's really magical. We usually don't stop to watch it because we've seen it a couple of times, and now we're just like rushing to, there's lines to get into all the different lands and stuff. We usually go to Fantasyland first. So we usually skip the castle show and go straight to get in line for early entry at Fantasyland, but it is fun to watch if you've never seen it before. So the only lands that are open, let me look at my notes to make sure I'm saying this right. Okay, the only lands that are open for early entry, and this is something that I just learned recently, but the only lands that are open other than Main Street are Fantasyland and Tomorrowland. So like Frontierland, Liberty Square, Adventureland, those are not yet open. They open when park opens. So you could go there if you're there early and just be like the first in line, and you could probably like walk right on to most of those rides when it opens. But we like to kind of take advantage and ride as many rides as we can during that early entry time, and even like into the first 2 hours that the park is open. Okay, so going through our Magic Kingdom day, we've gotten there, we're at the park, we're waiting for our first rides. So let's talk about strategy, because there is strategy involved in your Magic Kingdom day if you want to get the most out of it. So the first ride you choose is actually really important. Your most popular rides are probably going to be Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Peter Pan's Flight, and those are both in Fantasyland. So if you really want to ride those and you don't have Genie Plus, I would head there first. Those are also the two rides that I might try to book first for for Genie Plus because they're going to get sold out, or whatever you want to say, the fastest too. Actually, I think Mine Train is an individual lightning lane that you have to pay extra for on Genie Plus. It's so complicated and convoluted, but those are gonna be your most popular rides. If those are important to you, I would head there first. Space Mountain is another one. It's in Tomorrowland. That's gonna be pretty popular, so you might wanna try that first. Our family we usually, like I said, we usually get Genie Plus, so our whole day kind of depends on whatever rides we're able to book and whatever times we're able to book those. So usually when we go into the park first, we head to Fantasyland because that's throughout the day. It's going to get super, super busy later. And we do some of those less popular rides because we know we're probably going to use our Genie Plus for the more popular rides. And we try to like knock out as many of the ones as we can first thing in the morning. And they're a lot of times mostly walk-ons. So we'll do like the Winnie the Pooh ride, the Ariel ride, the Teacups, Dumbo, those types of rides that are not super popular, but they are gonna get longer rides later in the day. So just be thinking about your strategy. Whatever you go to first is important. Or like I said, the other lands, Adventureland, Frontierland, Liberty Square, they're not going to open as early. If you don't have early entry, then it doesn't matter if you're not staying on property. But if those rides are really important to you, maybe you have someone in your family that loves Pirates or loves Haunted Mansion, like I said, you could just head there and be like the first in line to get to those rides. And when they open, you just go right there. They don't let you run. You can speed walk right to those rides and be like the first one on, or like Big Thunder Mountain or things like that. Okay, so we've kind of talked about what rides to head to first. So what rides should you save for later in the day? So a lot of times once it starts to get more crowded and busier, we will head to some of those less popular rides that during the height of the crowds in the day are not going to have such long lines. So those might be things like the TTA, the Tomorrowland Transit Authority, and I can't really explain it, but that ride is magical. And if you're a Disney World person, you know what I mean. And it's just the people mover. It takes you around Tomorrowland, and you get great views of the castle, and there's just something about it. And there's usually not a long line, so that's a fun one to ride on. So we do that when the crowds are high. The train usually doesn't have too long of a line, and that can help you get to different lands too if you are tired of walking. And it's just a charming little train ride. The Teacups, usually Dumbo, and Dumbo has a really cool play area too that your kids can just climb and play while you wait, and it's indoors, so that one's always good in the heat of the day when the crowds are high. I'll talk more about that kind of stuff in my next video, but that's a good one. The Little Mermaid ride, the Winnie the Pooh ride, those usually aren't too busy. The carousel, Mickey's PhilharMagic, that is a 3D show. Don't skip it though. It usually doesn't have much of a wait at all. You usually just have to kind of wait till the show before you has ended. And it is so, sorry, you probably hear like little rattles in the background, but it is just so adorable and so magical for little kids. It's it's older. It's been there for a long time, but I never want to skip it. We love that show. So that's a really good one. It's inside. You can get out of the heat, sit down for a little while. That's a good middle of the day thing to do. Small World usually doesn't get a long line, and it's a long ride. So sometimes it kind of makes you go a little crazy if it's not your favorite, like my husband. But I mean, it's iconic. It's a classic ride, and you can sit down on this cool boat ride inside for I think it's at least like 15 or 20 minutes long. So also good to do in the heat of the day. The line or the queue is covered too. It's inside. So when you go in the middle of the summer like we do, it's all about getting out of the sun, getting out of the heat. And then you have some of those like in-between rides that are not like the most popular, but they're not just like little rides that have no wait. Like I'm thinking like Pirates, Haunted Mansion, my personal favorite ride at Magic Kingdom, Big Thunder, Railroad, things like that. I feel like those are ones that you might just have to wait in line. Jungle Cruise is another one. I hate that line. I don't know what it is about that queue, but it's like you think you're almost there, and then you go around this corner and you see that there's like this whole other section of the line that was not visible to you. It like plays mind tricks on you. That's my least favorite queue. Anyway, total side note, but that one, it's usually a longer line. You could just save those kind of till the end of the day too, though, because crowds a lot of times will drop off at the end of the day. Or if you don't want to watch fireworks, the line times go way, way down during fireworks. So you might want to save something like that for like fireworks time. You're probably not going to completely avoid waiting in line, but our family has found if you plan, we usually don't wait more than 20 or 30 minutes for anything, especially if you do Genie Plus. Okay, so TJ is going to be joining us here because he's starting to lose his patience and he needs his mama, huh? So anyway, hopefully those were some helpful tips about the rides and kind of how to do it, what I would do first, what I would prioritize. It all, of course, depends on what is important to you and your family. And I will be talking next time a lot more in depth about the rides, specifically with kids too. But now we are going through our Magic Kingdom day, and it's 3 o'clock now. And if you know anything, oh, he has the hiccups. This is gonna be super distracting, but if you know anything about Magic Kingdom, there's always a 3 o'clock parade. And right now, well, for the past like 9 or 10 years or something, it's been the Festival of Fantasy Parade. And it is, if you've never seen it before, it is super magical. It's beautiful. It's one of our favorite things. We don't always watch it because we've seen it a few times now, and it is usually super hot when we're there, but I think it's worth it if you've never been there. It's totally worth it to watch it. It's just awesome. There's huge floats and there's lots of characters that you can see. And I think the best place I've ever gone for the parade is like right outside in Liberty Square. There's a little Christmas shop, and if you stand outside of there, there's a couple of trees, so there's a little bit of shade. I feel like it's less busy in that area than it would be like on Main Street. So that is where we like to watch the parade. So you're probably going to want to prioritize that. Sometimes during busy seasons, they will do that parade twice. I think they'll do it at noon and then at 3. I would plan to try to watch it at some point. It does get very, very busy. You're going to want to stake out a spot a little bit before the parade starts if it's important to you, if you want to get a really good view. Okay, and one little thing that I think, it's such a little area, like a little attraction, if you can even call it that. And if you don't have kids, you're probably never gonna go there. It's probably not on your radar, but it was probably my oldest daughter's like favorite thing on our first trip. And that is in the circus area. You can go to, oh my goodness, you wanna go there? You can go to Casey Jr.'s Splash and Soak Station. And it's just circus animals and like a little circus train, and it just squirts out water. And in the middle of summer, it was just the most fun thing for her. We spent so much time there just running around. So don't sleep on that unless it's like the middle of winter. It might not be running, but that's super fun. In I think it's Adventureland, there's also this little area where you can get like misted. Those little spots where you can get cooled off like that. Kids love them. So just be looking out for those. Sometimes it's those little moments, like I always say, that make the trip for your kids. Just like the Casey Jr. Splash and Soak Station. We certainly didn't pay for our tickets to Disney World to go to that. But that's the thing that my daughter always talked about and remembered from our first trip. So don't skip on that stuff. Don't be so focused on your next ride that you forget to stop and have fun along the way. That might be my biggest tip with kids. Okay, we're winding down here for part 1. The next thing that I want to talk about are just some little special spots to eat, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in my next video too. But if you have a Winnie the Pooh lover in your family, I highly suggest eating at Crystal Palace. It's a buffet, but you can meet the Winnie the Pooh characters there, and it's just really cute. So highly suggest that if you have a Winnie the Pooh lover. If you have a Beauty and the Beast lover, you can eat in the Beast Castle. It is pricey and it is hard to book, so make sure you're booking those 60 days in advance, right away when you can. I believe during certain meals you can even meet the Beast, and I love Beauty and the Beast is my favorite Disney movie. So even as an adult, we ate there once, and it was like I was totally geeking out, like being in the big ballroom and everything. It's really magical. Another noteworthy one is that you can eat in Cinderella's castle. So we did that once as well. It's called Cinderella's Royal Table. You can meet a lot of the princesses there, including Cinderella, of course. Very pricey, also very difficult to book, but I think it's fun to do it at least once, especially if you have a princess lover in your family, which we do. So that was fun to do once. I don't know if we'll ever do it again, but it was fun to do once. So those are some of the really fun places to eat. So be planning those too, especially if you have kids that like those specific characters. Looking at my notes here. Oh, the very last thing, if we're going through our day at Disney World, the very last thing, big, at least noteworthy thing that's going to happen is the Magic Kingdom fireworks. So they usually, it depends on the time of year. In the summertime, they're very late. They're like after 9. So if you have kids that just don't like to stay up late, you might want to skip the fireworks. If they don't want to be in big crowds, you also might want to skip them. You can even walk through the rest of the park, do different rides and stuff, and just enjoy them without seeing like the castle projections. Kind of enjoy them as you go. Our family loves the fireworks. Okay, at least I do. But if you have sensitive kids, which we do not forget like some kind of ear protection. But it is truly one of the most magical things at Disney World. So I would say you have to see them at least once. But if your kid can't handle it, don't push them either. And then everybody will be miserable. But don't forget the ear protection. You can also do a fireworks dessert party. It's another thing that is very expensive, but we did it once and we really liked it. You were able to, instead of getting on, and if you do want to watch the fireworks and you want a good spot, you are going to have to stand out for like maybe an hour beforehand to get a good spot. So it is nice with the fireworks dessert party. You pay, you get to go, instead of staking out your spot on Main Street or wherever, you get to go and have this nice dessert, sit down, relax, and they hold a spot for you. So you can go out just a little bit before the fireworks start and you have this area set aside. I will say it did even feel a little crowded in there, but much less crowded than if you were like standing in the middle of Main Street. So that might be worth the price for you if you don't want all the hassle of being shoulder to shoulder with people and having to wait there for like an hour to have your good spot. So something to look into as well. And I think the best place to stand for fireworks is like toward close to the castle, towards like Casey's Corner, like around the end of Main Street. We stood further back last time and it was cool to see the projections on the building in Main Street, but I didn't think the view was quite as good as if we're a little closer to the castle. So that's my suggestion if you want a good view. You could also stand behind the castle and you see most of them. You can't see the projections, but much less crowded back there. So anyway, I need to wrap this video up and put my little guy to sleep. So next time I will be talking about like land by land, all of the different rides, attractions, experiences, and different things. It's going to be super in-depth. Some things you might want to consider with each one. And I hope this helped you feel more prepared for your trip. And I hope you have the best trip possible. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more Disney tips and tricks and vlogs along the way. Say bye, TJ. Say bye, guys. I'm going to go take a nap now. Huh.